Hello everyone, welcome back to Bestie Chats, which is kind of my new official podcast. I don't know. As I kind of mentioned in the last video, Bestie Chats is basically just me rambling about stuff, and in a even less organized way than I usually ramble about stuff, because usually when I'm rambling, I'm walking around my house doing stuff, but in general, it's just unadulterated chit chat, if you will. So today's topic of, I don't even want to say a conversation, it's probably going to be more like a rant slash therapy session. But one that I believe that many of you will likely be able to relate to, which was being diagnosed with ADHD in my early 20s. Let's just dive right in. Get yourself a little drink or a snack or a pile of laundry or a crochet project or something that you want to do, and let's get into it. All right, so I feel like I've talked a lot about the fact that I have ADHD on this channel, but interestingly enough, I didn't realize that I had it until partway through this channel. Like, I started the channel not 100% knowing for sure, and then after a little bit of having the channel, I was diagnosed by my therapist. I never went through any of the testing, but then again, my therapist also admitted to me that she also has ADHD, and she was like, you have it. Like, we did the little questionnaire, you have it. And also, if you know anything about my family, like, it runs rampant. So my younger sibling was actually formally diagnosed at a younger age. Theirs presents a bit more, I don't want to say like aggressively, but you know, there's different types of ADHD, which is something that I didn't know. There's attentive, inattentive, and then the third one I think is like a little wombo combo of the both of them. This is just what I'm remembering, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I probably should add a disclaimer here while we're still at the start of the video to say that I'm not a professional in anything. This is just my personal experiences. That's all I'm ever talking about on this channel, is my personal experiences and things that I've learned from doing things in my life. I mean, where do I even begin? So I think the first thing that happened when I got officially diagnosed was, first of all, in a sense, just like relief, because I was finally validated about all of my feelings and experiences. It was first, again, like a really just a wave of validation. Second was a lot of grief, a lot more than I expected, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on because there's a lot to unpack there. And then after that, it kind of just became like learning coping mechanisms and tools that would help me function better on a day-to-day basis, because I was doing things a certain way and I was kind of basing them on the very obviously neurotypical model of most life and things in general. There were certain things that I was doing that I think are more common for neurodivergent people, like keeping certain things in a certain place in your home, or always putting stuff back when you take them out. That's something that I really had to work on a lot. Or like having multiples of things, because if I accidentally lost one or left one somewhere, then, you know, there's less of a catastrophe when things go wrong. But particularly, it was very difficult for me to keep up with like medication and stuff like that, because as some of you may know, I've struggled with eczema my entire life, like literally my entire life. I'll probably make a whole different Bestie Chats video on that, even though I have already made a video about my eczema experience if you wanted to check that out if you're struggling or know someone that's struggling with something similar. But it was really important for me to kind of stay on a regimen, I guess, of like certain foods and blah, 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 because I was trying to like heal my gut and do all of that stuff. So that brings me to the sponsor of today's episode of Bestie Chats real quick, which is Ritual. So I did not have Ritual in the early days, especially when I was trying to figure out all of my health stuff with my eczema and everything. And I wish that I did, honestly, because this is probably the best probiotic that I've ever used. And I'm literally not just saying that because they're sponsoring this video. They sent it to me to try, and they were like, just try it out. Like, try it out, see what you think, and then let us know if you want to do a video. And I was like, besties, if you don't hook me up with this forever, please. I use the Synbiotic Plus, which is their pro, and postbiotic, which is something that I didn't even know existed before I started using Ritual. And the thing about it is that for me personally, it is so like gets in and gets the job done that even if I forget to take it for a day or two here and there, I overall feel so much better because I'm using it, especially for me as someone who obviously kind of forgets to always take a pill or whatever. I can literally just tell that it feels stronger and more effective, and that's just been my experience as someone that has tried many different types of probiotic pills. This one by far is the best. So if you're kind of looking for that kind of thing and on the market for it, you can get 25% off with my code and link in the description box below. The code is GraceNevitt25. And thank you again to Ritual for sponsoring today's video. So anyways, what were we chatting about? Back to the topic at hand. First reaction, like I said, immense validation, definitely a lot of relief. And then again, there was the whole grief section, which I don't know what your experience is with ADHD. If you have it, if a loved one or a friend has it, if a parent or whatever, or you're just kind of watching this to learn more about my experiences with it, I don't know. There's a lot of things that kind of snap into focus in a really short period of time that can be very overwhelming to process. So for me, I think it was just noticing some of these things and unpacking a bit of internalized ableism, actually. That was really a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I cried so much in the first couple of months after I got my diagnosis because I feel like I was just grieving and apologizing almost to like my inner child. You know what I mean? Because there were so many things that I had to do or that I really beat myself up about when I was younger, and like I got a lot of outside whatever from other people as well, whether that was my friends or family or like school. I went to a really stressful and high-strung school when I was younger. I grew up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, literally, I'm not just saying that to like be a California girl, because at my core, of course, I am a California girl, and I say like and literally all the time. If you watch any of my videos, you can probably tell that already. People have made several comments about it over the time that I've been on YouTube, but guess what? You can take the girl out of California, but you can't take the California out of the girl. Anyways, literally grew up a stone's throw from Apple headquarters and like Apple buildings all over the place. My high school was basically right across the street from one of the buildings that they work in. So it was very intense. There was a lot of focus on science and math, and as a conservative estimate, probably 40% of my graduating class majored in computer science. in college. Like, they went to college to go major in computer science. And, you know, I was the dumb one because I ended up going to school for theater. And it wasn't like a big name school. I went to a school that nobody had ever heard of. And it's fine. I really don't care about all of that because at the end of the day, I know that I'm smart. And, you know, going to school in that environment definitely led me to be the way that I am, which is very academically driven and, you know, striver for excellence. It definitely added a lot of anxiety and perfectionism into my life, which was probably not good and something that I've had to unpack and unlearn for the past couple of years. But just to give you a bit of a view on the whole situation, because I haven't really talked about, you know, my past growing up in Cupertino and all that stuff, and I don't know how much I will. This is just the broad strokes pretty much, but it was definitely stressful. Specific example, one time I was taking a chemistry test. It was actually the midterm, so I was really stressed about it. For me, numbers, not really my best friend. I get really anxious when it comes to number stuff, and I feel like when I'm learning math or chemistry, which is basically just science with a lot of math equations, I have to double check my answers because I feel like I forgot to put them into the calculator right. Like, I just get really paranoid. So I have to basically do the whole test 2 times. But I was doing it as I went so that I wouldn't necessarily have to go back. And also, my processing time was a little slower. You know, there's a lot of people in the class, a lot of stuff going on. I didn't finish in time. I got about 70% of the way through the test and the bell rang and the class was over, but there was recess afterwards, or brunch or whatever the frick we called it. And I asked my teacher, I was like, hey, can I just use this 20 minutes that we have of recess and finish the test? Because I'm only 70% of the way through. I haven't even looked at like the last 2 pages of the test. And he went, no, sorry. And I literally started crying, like I burst into tears, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna get a C on this midterm and my entire grade is gonna be horrible. Like, the stress was so high. I got a 3.7, I think, GPA out of 4 points. This is a very Americanized grading system. I don't know what the other systems are in different places in the world, but I had a 3.7 out of 4.0, and I was in the bottom 50% of my graduating class in high school. So if that tells you anything. Long story short, a lot of academic trauma from my past. Did not help that I had undiagnosed ADHD. It all kind of piled on. If I had extra time for taking math tests, that probably would have been really helpful. I feel like I have some minor form of whatever the dyslexia is for numbers. I probably have that a little bit. I don't even remember what it's called, but I was always the last person to turn in a math test, blah, 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 whatever. I remember getting an A- on a math test one time and nearly crying from joy because I was so excited. I almost always got B's in math, and you might be like, Grace, that's really dramatic, but I worked myself to the bone to get those B's, and the fact that I was trying so hard and I could only get B's made me feel so stupid compared to everyone else. So it was just like a lot of things going on, and a lot of those things I had to unpack. Again, like kind of being nice to my past self and saying, it's okay, you didn't know. There's nothing you could have necessarily done in this situation. I just thought that I was struggling because everyone else was so smart. And it turns out I was also just struggling. I was mainly just struggling because I had like a learning, is it a learning disability? Kind of it is, yeah, because it makes it harder for you to learn things and focus and all that shit. So yeah, I was walking around being like, I'm dumb because of this, but it was really just, I needed different situations to learn in instead of the one that they were handing us. Thing is, if I had a little bit of help, if I had an IEP, I probably could have done really, really well in school. And I did do really well. I just had to work around my like intense procrastination, which led to me getting very little sleep in school. The thing is, oh man, there's so much here. There's so much. I find education and learning things so fun and interesting, genuinely, which is why I think I read so much, because I love to learn. I love learning. However, the way that they set it up in the schools that I went to, I did not have help learning. So I just thought that me working myself way over the bounds and limits of whatever was me just like doing what everyone else was doing. But they were doing the same kinds of things, but in like AP classes and everything. I was kind of fiddling away half of my time being distracted by doing stuff and then spending the other half of time studying and doing homework and whatever. If I had known that I had ADHD, whatever, all these things, I probably could have gotten easily a 4.0 all throughout high school for sure. But I just didn't really know how to work with my brain and do the things that I needed to do in order to truly and fully succeed in school. I ended up figuring it out a bit more in college, but also my classes were more geared towards the things that I liked doing because I majored in theater and philosophy, and those were two things that I cared a lot about. Still do care a lot about, and I'm very interested in both of those things, but it was just a lot easier to like pay attention and focus. I also took Mandarin in college as well, and Spanish in high school, so I'm like a little bit conversational in both of those languages, but one day it's my goal to be a polyglot. But my ass is having a very hard time studying without external pressure, so maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. I don't really care. If I'm a little bit barely fluent in 5 languages, I will consider that a slight win for myself. Getting off topic, who would have thought? What was I saying? What was I actually trying to say? I was moving towards a point. Yeah. Oh, in college, I ended up getting a 3.9 GPA, and I graduated with the highest honors that you can graduate with. Essentially, like I said, there was just a lot of emotions to work through, a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things that I didn't process because I didn't really know why they were happening when I was younger. And I think it was pretty much just a huge catharsis of there's nothing wrong with you, like this is just the way that your brain is, and that's okay. And yeah, it was emotional because I kind of had to come to accept the fact that maybe, yeah, there's a reason why I'm so sensitive and I get so easily overstimulated because my brain is already moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I just had to embrace the fact that I did things a little bit differently than a lot of other people. The great thing is that in my life, a lot of my family and friends are the same, as me. And I think that commonly happens. I feel like calls to like, and if you have a bunch of friends that are neurodivergent, chances are you are too, because it's a hive mind thing. And that's why I feel like a lot of my subscribers are also neurodiverse, because my videos are really chaotic and I feel like it takes a certain kind of brain to understand exactly what I'm talking about or experiencing in my videos. I'm not saying that everyone that follows me or watches these videos is neurodivergent, because that's absolutely not true as well. I know for a fact that not everyone is that watches my videos, but it's a bit more of a camaraderie, you know? But that's not to say that neurotypical people can't enjoy and relate to my videos as well, because I'm also just talking about the human experience in general. I just talk about different ways on how to do the things that I'm doing in a more intentional way, and I feel like that just happens to end up being advice for people that are similarly neurodivergent like I am, because that's how my brain works. And doing things in the certain way that I do things is completely accessible to most people, including neurotypical people. So I feel like either way, the advice is still valid, the advice is still good, it's just more accessible to more people, which makes me happy. Anyways, what else is there to talk about? It's just a crazy time. It's a crazy experience. I know people that are diagnosed so much later in life. I know some people that to this day are still not diagnosed. I feel very sad for a lot of the people in Generation X, which is like my mom's generation and like Ray's mom, who both very much display the symptoms of ADHD and were never diagnosed and have kind of had to figure out through experiencing through their children or just like media in general how to do things that work for them and how to create systems for themselves via that channel, and like lots of trial and error throughout their life, and have never been like validated by a medical professional, which not saying you always have to. Like if you really have a strong suspicion that you have ADHD or autism or whatever, self-diagnosis to a very large extent is extremely accepted in both of these communities, because at the end of the day, like there's only so much a doctor can do to you by saying, okay, you have it, you sure do. Okay, cool. Like medication is pretty much the only reason why you would need to go down those paths. And for me, that's not personally the path that I choose to go down, which is totally my choice. And I respect anyone that chooses to use it, because again, everyone's brain, everyone's levels of whatever is different. And some things work way better for people than others. Some people literally need medication to function. Luckily, I am not one of those people, and I do not take that for granted. I feel very privileged in that fact. Obviously, things go wrong sometimes. You gotta pay the ADHD tax every once in a while. That's just, it is what it is. But that's something that is like low enough for me that it's fine. Like it's really okay. It doesn't very, very negatively affect my life. But anyways, you know, at the end of the day, you kind of just have to work on solutions that make sense for you. So like, for example, for me, I used to bullet journal a lot in college, and my roommate used to do it as well. And we kind of would just like sit down and do that every once in a while, but then I kind of started falling off of it, and it started getting kind of stressful to keep up, and it just felt like, oh my gosh, over perfectionism started coming in. And then I was just like, you know what, I need to figure out a better way of doing this. So I kind of decided to do an everything journal, which I also made a video about. And it's helped me a lot, because it's kind of taken away all the restraints of a neurotypical world of like doing things a certain way. And I've kind of just realized that you just need to figure out what works best for you. Doesn't matter if there's already a way to do it. I don't care. Throw the rules out the window and do the things that work the best for you in any situation. As long as it's, you know, legal and safe for other people, that's pretty much all that matters. And yeah, that's really the point of this channel. Me finding ways to live an intentional and happy life, kind of working through what works best for me and sharing my experiences while doing that, and then hopefully connecting to a lot of you at the same time. Anyways, my camera is yelling at me that it's overheating because I've been filming for way too long, but I think that's a great place to kind of wrap up the conversation and end. I would love to talk to you more in the comments about your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, anything you relate to, your journey with ADHD, whatever. Just let's talk in the comments. I will be there. And until the next one, I'm literally sending you so much love, all of it, in fact, because what did I just say? we're all just trying our best out here. That's what I say at the end of every video, but genuinely, I'm not just saying it because it's like a cute little outro. Like, I'm always sending you guys all my love and just reminding you that we are all trying our best. So I really mean it. I'll see you in the next one.